it is the only thing that is stable. It is the only thing that never changes. And it's not, you see, and this is the thing that has to happen for you to cross the bridge. This is the thing that has to happen for you to move from the conditioning that we all have, in which we consider ourselves to be our body, in which we consider ourselves to be the person with the name and the story and the history. In order to move out of that, you see, that is such a complete hypnotic state. Do you know what I mean? You're so identified with that, you know, for many people, maybe even most people, they wouldn't even be able to entertain this conversation, because they would think it's just navel gazing. They would just think it's magic. They would just think it's occult talk. It's not realistic. It's not useful. The majority of humanity view this way. That's why, even though for thousands of years these teachings have been available and meditation has been available, and yet for thousands of years the majority of humanity has remained ignorant, has remained in the dark, has continued to suffer, has continued to kill each other, right? So that's what you're up against, right? And so when you ask a question like that, it gives me the opportunity to say, well, the first thing is, you see, because the mind will come in and express the experience that you have of seeing yourself as awareness. The mind will come in and just give it a little twist, so that the way it comes out of your mouth is, well, I experienced the awareness, and is that something that's there all the time, and can I experience that consistently, right? But you see, the mind, what the mind did is it flipped reality, and you wouldn't even notice the flip, right? Because the truth of the matter is, who you are, right? Awareness is you, and the awareness you are is aware of who you think you are. But then the mind will flip it and say, oh, I am aware. You see what I'm saying? I am aware. I am aware. So that I exist, and then I have awareness. But you see, that's the mistake. Awareness exists, and then you develop this idea that you have of yourself as something that's other than, separate from awareness, and then lost your experience of the truth of yourself as awareness, and then continue to live in a world in which everybody else is doing the same thing, right? And so the idea of who you really are as awareness is it's a lost reality. It's ignored. I mean, the word ignorance, right, is based on the word ignore, right? Ignore, right? So most of us are ignoring the truth. Most of us are ignoring the reality of who we actually are. And the thing that makes that doubly problematic is that the most of us who are ignoring the reality of who they are don't know they're doing that. They think that what they think is true is reality and is the truth. And if you don't think that, then you got a problem. Because the reason you have a problem is because, well, I have the agreement of most of humanity. They all agree with me about what's real. Right? So the answer to your question is yes, it's always there, right? And what happens is when you see it and you make contact with it and you experience it, and you experience the peace that's there, you experience the freedom that's there, you experience the relaxation and the relief of experiencing yourself as that, then the mind comes in and says, oh, that was pretty neat, you know. Well, you should practice meditation so you could have that experience again. It puts you right back into being the person, and you don't even see the flip, right? And so that's the thing that there is to understand, is that, you know, that as soon as the mind comes in and you have a thought, just listen to what I'm saying. As soon as the mind comes in and you have a thought, do you hear what I'm saying? And you have a thought, right? That it flips you back into being the person that you consider yourself to be, that has this body. It flips you right into that, and then from there you speak about awareness. And that's why you would say what you said. You know, is the awareness always there? Well, the reason you would say is the awareness always there is because for the most part, you're not paying attention to it. You're not aware of the awareness. right? What you're aware of is you're aware of thinking, right? And what you think is you think you're a person, and you think you're a body, and you think everything, and you think there's time and space, and you think everything that everybody else thinks is true, and you go right back into that. So that's why this is so challenging. That's why so few people wake up. That's why so few people see reality for what it is and actually can make the transition into experiencing themselves in that way. And in the past, those people were called sages, right? They were called gurus. They were called mystics, right? They were called seers, right? Because in the past, this was all understood to have some kind of spiritual, magical context to it, right? And there's still a lot of that in the world. There's still a lot of that, especially in the East, right? But we don't live in those days anymore. This is a contemporary reality now. We have brain science, right? Now we know that what the sages and the mystics were saying is scientifically proven to be true. Do you understand? It's scientifically proven to be true that you are not a body. It's scientifically proven to be true. Quantum mechanics says that what appears to be matter, what appears to be physical, is not actually there. It's not actually physical. There is no actual matter. Because when they look at the subatomic particles, right, when you break matter down, right, if you start looking at the smaller and smaller pieces, you get down to atoms, right? You get down to atoms, you get down to subatomic particles, you get down to quarks. Well, quarks would be lower than subatomic. I mean, they've gotten very far down there, right? And what they're saying is at that level, there is no matter. At that level, at the level of subatomic particles, there's probabilities of things taking a form. But there's no actual form in existence. There's no material world. So this is what the ancient sages were saying thousands of years ago. But now we have science that agrees with this. And now we have brain science that says when you meditate and when you relax and when you begin to have an experience of yourself other than what you learned you are, that your brain changes. Your brain changes. Your brain changes. We know through research that a person who's a serious practitioner of meditation, that's practiced meditation for decades, they have a completely different brain than other people. And they're experiencing a completely different experience than other people. And the most important feature of the difference between them and most other people is they're unperturbed. People who have made the shift from being identified as a reactive personality with conditioning to the awareness itself are calm, peaceful, responsive. They have clarity. You know, this is why we look at them and we see them as a sage. You know, we see them as special, or we see them as different. You know, but what they actually say, whether we're talking about, you know, when we talk about these teachers, you could talk about Buddha, you could talk about Jesus Christ, you could talk about Lao Tse. You know, there are many, many people throughout the ages that experience this reality of who they actually are. And what those people said was, I am not different than you, right? I mean, if it was the case that they were special and they were different, why would they go and then try and teach other people to have this experience? I mean, that would be crazy unless it was actually possible for other people to have this experience. So it's there, it's a constant all the time. And if you want, all you have to do to find out if that's true is check. You know, check and see see, I could say check and see if you're aware, right? Because it's a no-brainer, right? You know you're always aware, aren't you? You know you're always aware, right? But if watch, this is how the mind tricks you into believing something that's not true. She says, I am not aware, I am not peaceful. And I say, how do you know that? She could not possibly report any of what she's saying unless she was aware of everything that she was saying. Is that not the case? This is the mind. This is the mind. That's not the same awareness he's talking about. Don't kid yourself. The awareness is there. You can't say anything. You can't say you're not aware unless you're aware that you're not aware. You understand? It's a trick. You can't say that you're not aware unless you're aware that you're not aware. So all you're doing when you say that is you're believing what the mind's telling you. The mind, the voice in your head is saying all that, and it's coming out of your mouth. That's all that's happening. You're being a puppet. You're being a puppet. This is not rocket science. This is not hard to get. How hard does it get for you to get that you're aware right now? It's got to be easy because it's the most obvious thing you could possibly be aware of is that you're aware right now. If you weren't aware right now, everything else that you think is true couldn't be there because you wouldn't be aware of it. Awareness is your existence, is it not? It's your existence. If you weren't aware right now, it's over, right?
It's the first thing that has to be there.
Of course, it's the first thing that has to be there. It's there before you have a name. It's there before you even know you're your body. Right? A baby does not know it has a body yet. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't understand anything until it gets language. And then we educate the baby to believe that it's something that it's not. It's a necessary reality, right? Because you gotta have a piece to play the game. You gotta have a piece on the board to play Monopoly, right? And your piece is the body, and your piece is the person, your piece is the name and all that stuff. It's a necessary thing for you to be in the world and play this game we're all playing together, right? But that doesn't mean that that's the ultimate and absolute truth of what you are. It's just the form you're taking in order to function in the world that we live in together in time and space. But you see, there is another phase of life. The baby is born, and the baby is being awareness itself. And this is one of the reasons that we love babies, right? Because when you look at a baby, the baby is completely awake and aware and interested and innocent and naturally happy. It doesn't have, it's not judgmental. You know, if you encounter a baby, right, do you ever notice the baby doesn't look away? You know, the baby will make eye contact with you and smile at you. They experience the connection to consciousness itself. You understand? Of course, adults tend to look away at the baby. They feel self-conscious. They can't look too long at any. Nobody makes eye contact too long with other human beings, right? Because it's insulting. Right? What do you know? If you stare at somebody, right, they're going to say to you, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Right? But a baby never says that. The baby's happy to look at you like that. So a baby is just awareness, being in the present moment. If it wets its pants, it cries. You change the diaper, it smiles. Right? It's immediately present to what's happening. Right? It doesn't wet its pants and then you change its diaper and it's worried about whether it's going to wet its pants again. It doesn't do that. Right? It's just here and happy again. Right? And then you learn to be a person, and you learn to control your feelings, and you learn not to make trouble, and you learn to behave and be quiet. You settle down, don't move around too much, don't make too much noise, be a good person, right? So we learn to control ourselves, and we learn to identify with the bodies, and and so now we look in the mirror and we're worried about if we're good enough, right? Because we look around, oh, that person's better looking than me, right? So we go through all this process and develop a personality, and now we're in the game. Right? And then you become a teenager, and now you're really worried. Do I have the right clothes? Do I look right? Am I in with the right crowd? Right? And so now you're in the game. And then as you get older and you become an adult, right, you start getting caught up in the rat race, the process. Everybody's trying to be happy, and everybody knows that money makes you happy, so you got to be in that. You got to be trying to make money. Everybody's trying to control everything, right? Everybody's trying to control everything. Get more money, get more control, get more security, and of course it doesn't work. Every time you get more, you need more. So it's an endless process. And that's where most people die. Right? They try and make the best of it, right? You get to a certain point as an adult, and now you're trying to make the best of it because you know how this is going to end, right? So you try and keep that out of your mind, try and, do as much as you can to get as much as you can out of life, right? Get as much as you can out of life. But there's another phase that almost nobody knows. The third phase of life is to awaken to the experience of the baby. That's why it says in the Bible, in order to You know, in order to be free, you have to become like a baby. You familiar with that, right? In order to be, you have to become like a baby. But the difference is, you've gone to the third phase of life, and you now have the knowledge of what you are as awareness itself, but you've also learned how to play the game. You know, you've also learned how to be a person and how to function in society and all that. You know all that, right? But now you go beyond that, and you know that that's not actually who you are. You just had to learn how to be that way. And now you go beyond that, and now you're free from the limitations of all that, and you can really enjoy yourself. Most people never get to the third phase. Most people get stuck in the second phase, and they struggle, they try to, you know, to be in control and to be happy and so forth, and usually at some point they get to this place called resignation. They just resign. It's like, oh, well, it's like my mother said to me at one point. I tried to have a conversation with her and tried to get her to understand that it was possible for her to be happy, and she didn't have to be anxious and depressed and feel like her circumstances sucked and all that. And she said, oh, you don't understand. I don't know why you get involved with all that stuff. You don't understand, you know. Once you get old, you know, our time is over, and now we're just, you know, doing the best we can to stay calm. That's the resignation that most people get to later in life, right? It's tragic that that's the case, right? Because if you get to the third phase of life, you begin to experience the ability to really be at peace and to really be excited about the fact that you exist, and to really experience happiness and being happy as a natural state. You're not seeking it anymore. You're not trying to find security. You just feel secure. You feel complete. You feel happy. You feel peaceful. Because that's the nature of what you actually are as awareness. So that is always available. It's always been here. The question is, will you recognize that, and will you make contact with that, and will you then be that instead of just making contact with that? Will you recognize that that has always been who you really are, right? And when you think you're not that, it's because you're paying attention to thinking, and you're paying attention to identifying with the body and identifying what you learned, instead of allowing yourself to notice the truth, which is always here. That's the only stable thing. That which never changes, that which is timeless, is what you actually are. It's the only thing that doesn't change. It's the only thing that doesn't get old and die. And so the name of the game is to wake up and discover and realize the truth of yourself, and allow yourself to experience that experience, and then you will have fulfilled the possibility of a human life. You will have fulfilled the possibility of a human life. So when it comes time for the time body to die, because this is a time body, right? When it comes time for the time body to die, it won't be any problem. That's what's available. It seems almost, I mean, to somebody that is not open to this possibility, it seems like beyond believable, you know. Somebody who's not open to this possibility would say, come on, give me a break, right? Sorry, it is the truth. It's the truth. And it's available to find out. What I would say to anybody who says that is, well, okay, you know, do the best you can with what you think is true. But the reality of it is, if you just stay open enough to look, as we did when we did this contemplation, and if you see what I'm pointing to when you look, then you don't have to believe me, you saw it. And then the question is, would you be interested in actually experiencing that that's you? And if you are interested in experiencing that you, then you have to make a commitment to stay connected to learning about it, and stay connected to practicing meditation and experiencing that, so you can get familiar enough with the experience and consistent enough with the experience, so that even when you're going through the world where everybody else thinks everything is different than that, you'll be able to maintain the experience of yourself. So, I hope that you continue to come to class. I hope you continue to meditate, and I hope you continue to learn about what we're talking about here. You know, some of you know that I've written a couple of books about this. They're available on Amazon. One's called Enlightenment Made Easy. The other one's called Dying to Live. And then on YouTube, there's a YouTube channel that's been in existence since I've been teaching here. There's over 100 talks there now. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to make contact with this. And the only way you're going to be awake and experience the possibility that I'm talking about is if you make a commitment to stay connected to this experience, to stay tuned into this experience and keep coming back and touching it, keep coming back and visiting it, keep coming back until it becomes so clear and consistent that you don't have to do that anymore, right? That you experience that that's what you are. That's the possibility. It can actually happen for you. And so I encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity. Okay, the next class will be Thursday, 5:30 in Studio 1. Have a good day.